And as a result, the friendships and the opportunities to hear the narratives of so many people as we plan to move forward. So I want to tell you about the grand opening. On October 17th, Sierra, if you could share the link to register for that in the chat for everyone. But on October 17th, we invite all of you to join us at 6:30. The first half hour, we have received more than 30 tributes from Omaha and around the world, including someone from the Nobel Peace Advisory Committee, and musical tributes for people who have been watching Tri-Faith from near and far, who have sent in their messages of celebration and blessing and hope. And so you'll be able to watch those with us. And then from that moment, we will enter the opportunity to witness a play that has been originally written by Beau, with choir of so many voices. And today you're going to learn about that creative process. And after that play, what we hope, where we'll go together into small groups on that night and for years to come to talk about what this play inspires in each of us. And so with that, I'm going to start with Tessa first and ask you, Tessa, can you tell us how you first heard about the Tri-Faith Initiative? And welcome.
Thank you for having me. And I wanted to say the director of this piece wasn't able to be here with us today, but it is the phenomenal Denise Chapman, who you will get to see her work very soon. I want to say the first time I heard about it was when I was asked to help with some storytelling when Inclusive Communities was honoring Tri-Faith. I don't remember how many years ago that was, but I got to sit in space with some of the faith leaders that day and kind of begin to understand the profundity of intentionally holding space for community. And I got to see little snippets of the Tri-Faith story being written. And then by having a dear friend on staff for a period of time, I got to deepen my understanding, and it's forever growing and in process.
Thank you. Beau, welcome. I love your new haircut. You're muted.
I said thank you. And hi, everyone.
Yes. Tell us when you first heard about the Tri-Faith Initiative.
Oh, man. Well, it's hard to pinpoint the first time I heard about Tri-Faith because it's one of those spaces that has a buzz around it. And so you hear it bubbling up a little bit as you guys were coming together and growing and then finding yourself in your new community over the years. So I've heard a lot about Tri-Faith just in the vibe of the city. And then I think the first time I was really like connected to Tri-Faith was sadly during a really, during a time of sadness for one of your congregations. And then I was able to donate, and then I was able to know where to go to be in community with my friends who were there. So that was really the first time I heard about Tri-Faith.
Thank you. Tessa, what attracts you to this cause, to this work that we're doing collectively?
Just everything. I think our teachers, well, I believe our teachers in life are kind of everywhere if we're willing to observe them. And when I think about Tri-Faith, I think about, kind of growing up the way that I did around faith. We weren't really included in the conversation. Like that next generation wasn't included in the conversation. I think what you're building here with young folks being encouraged and brought in and folded into the intentional community spaces that are built kind of for them, and this notion that kind of the past, present, and future live inside all of us, but that we have confined ways of thinking based on how we did grow up, and kind of opening up all of those pathways to, because to me, story is everything, and story is, it's how we relate to each other, it's how we connect to each other. and having exposure to a community that says you belong here and your story matters is so deep and so meaningful. And I think it connection creates immeasurable things. Because we're all changing moment to moment and it's all a process. And so the next word you write on a page, the next thing you say to your child, the next piece of internal uncomfortable work you're doing in your own life is so driven by this kind of sense of community and connection. So I deeply admire the work, and I learn from it every day.
Thank you. Beau, tell us about your vantage point of why this cause.
Oh man. Well, I guess in a nutshell, I want to always, as an artist, be open to learning and understanding and growing from other people outside of my own lived experience. And so knowing that that's knowing the mission of Tri-Faith, of you all taking that space to come together, it's a powerful thing, and it's something that I've watched myself grow in just the time that we've been together, working together. And so the initial yes from me is that, wow, the opportunity to work with an organization like this, I mean, that's an honor for any artist. And then it's only increased even within our challenges creatively. My yes has just increased because I've watched myself be able to have growth in this space with you too.
Beautiful. Beau, I'd love you to go next and tell about what experiences prepared you to do this work. This is a moment for you to help us celebrate all the skills artistically and others that you have brought forward to our community before this day. And I'd love people to know about some of those experiences that you've had.
So I'm a storyteller, first and foremost. I love to sit here and listen to all of your stories and ask you questions, and then turn around and take those stories to a place where an audience can see that, and these mundane parts of your life that you think don't matter are actually what connects all of us. And so that's where my work has taken me over the years. I'm a playwright, so a lot of my work has been based in American history, in Black American history, and in the history of our family tree. Not just my family tree, but I love diving into other people's family trees, because I feel like that's where the stories are. That's where the good stuff is. That's where our roots are. And so when I started uncovering the characters within the show that we do for Tri-Faith, it's all based in the stories that I share, that Tessa shares, that Wendy shares, and that members of your congregation have also shared. Last year I did a piece called Red Summer at the Blue Barn, and that piece was a commemoration of the lynching of William Brown in 1919 in Omaha, a piece of history that a lot of people either forgotten or never knew. And so walking through that experience of sharing his story, of making this person whose name maybe you know, but we don't know anything about him. We don't know how his voice sounded, what music he liked, any of that stuff. So I had to build him back into a human, to have other people share this empathy for this man that we see come to this tragic demise. But I also wanted his life to be about joy and love and all of the beautiful things that we bring to the table as well. And so building up the structure of a play from knowing very little about what you're getting into and learning as you go is what has helped me build this foundation with Tri-Faith.
Thank you. Tessa, tell us about your life experiences that prepared you to handle all the balls you have in the air right this minute for our grand opening.
Gosh, what a great question. So on some level, I was thinking about this a lot during the pandemic, that everything you've ever experienced kind of is leading you to the moment of knowing how to navigate the experience that you're in. But when I think back to, I'll never forget in college, I was originally a journalist, kind of toying with the idea of documentary film once I was introduced to that, because growing up as I did, I didn't kind of know of these things as art forms. I didn't know that being on a film set was a job, or that being, you know, I kind of thought art as a kid that it just, like a film just appeared out of the ether. And I remember taking a class called Lies My Teacher Told Me. At the same time, I was taking an economics class and a media law class and another class, and it just kept blowing my mind that, you know, these narratives that we were taught were written through a certain lens, and were written to support certain systems that are harmful to so many people, and that erased stories and erased experiences, and mindfully so. And so I remember seeing the intersection of law and medicine and economics and systems and structures at that time, and thought, oh wow, so language and story, you know, some have been erased, and some have been great at integrating into the fabric of what we know, and some have kind of been left out of the conversation. So I just remember at that time wanting to be really intentional about the kinds of work I was gonna move into. And then you graduate from college and you take a, you know, job on a film called Worst Prom Ever, and you it's not always going to be kind of moving through changing your molecules in the same way that you hope every project will, but you get things from that experience that color everything you do as well. Because one of the things you learn early on, either in journalism or as a, you know, a writer, or as someone on a film set, especially being someone on a film set when you're 20 and they send you away to go get something, you know, it can be something innocuous like a cooler or something, and you don't come back without a version of that thing. Go solve a problem, you know. And I think within the creative process, it's a constant restructuring of where your energy needs to lie. And I think you build these little you build these little families within creation that you want to, you know, honor, and you want to support their process, and you want to understand it, just like you've kind of grown to understand. Like, we're all students of ourselves, and I think when we're honoring ourselves, we are best equipped to go in and deepen our sort of love and connection with other. And so, and I think art is, it doesn't necessarily tell truth. I don't think stories necessarily tell the truth, but they tell you a story so you can go in and maybe uncover some part of your own truth, or focus your own energy on kind of where your engagement needs to lie, you know, kind of how you want to show up in the world. Like when you look at a painting or go to a play, the immediacy of what you're feeling is everything that you've gone through that's led you to that moment. It's sort of everything you're bringing in with you. And one of my favorite filmmakers said, her name is Agnes Barda, but she said something to the effect of, I couldn't tell you the story of the last film I saw, but I could tell you how I was feeling, what I was wearing, what was going on in my day and in the world around me as I experienced it. And that is kind of what you do as an artist. You hope that you open up pathways and conversations and kind of enrich in the interior life so that people can go enrich in their family, community, etc.
Beau, can you kind of take that sentiment that Tessa started around this concept of bridging difference and art as a vehicle for that, and what that's meant for you in your work and your contributions to our work?
Yes. Well, that's what I love to do. That's what I love about my job, is that, especially in the time that I've really come into my own work, we've been polarized so much in our country, politically, religiously, racially, there's so many boundaries and barriers. And how can we talk to each other as people? And now so many conversations live in this social media platform where you're not participating in creative, constructive dialogue. You're trying to one up another person, and you can block someone and you can, you know, log off and the conversation ends, but that energy is still there and you carry that with you. And for me, that's not healthy. It's the opposite of healthy. So when I think about channeling these conversations from this system where that's designed for us to be able to shut each other down and only listen to our own tunnel vision. Okay, what can I do with what I have, with where I am, to start opening minds and opening hearts and changing and showing ideas and showing an honesty in a way that we can all relate to. So it's not about driving an agenda. That's like this top line thing is of like, my agenda for this piece would be this. But it's about telling these microcosms of humanity and showing them back to an audience that has given me permission to be with them for an hour or two. And they can arrive at their own answers. I don't have to tell them, I don't have to drill anything. Everyone gets to arrive at your own, at the space that you need from the work that I'm doing. No one, I always say this, like, no one is going to watch the same play or the same movie and watch the same play or the same movie. You're coming into that audience with your own background, your own baggage, your own experiences, and whatever is meant for you out of that is what you'll take back with you, I feel. And I think that's such a tremendous part of the work that we're doing together too, because it's all about that conversation. It's all about, and you know, so much of this has happened in this past draft, me really understanding the need to come at it like this so that people can meet us here instead of here. And that's a big part of this show.
Thank you. Can you unpack a little bit further? People don't know that we started working on this in June, and or who you've spoken to, or you know, how many hours has gone into this. Can you give each of you kind of what the breadcrumbs towards October 17th have looked like for you, and what some of the aha moments have been? Who have you talked to? Why are you ready to help us put this in front of our audience?
My breadcrumbs have looked a lot like long baths and crying. That's the creative process. It's not pretty. Mm-mm. It's not pretty. The creative process looks glamorous and you just put lipstick on it and it's cute, but it's so ugly. But fulfilling, because it is every piece that I write, I am also transforming. I am in a transformative place with this tri-faith piece because I have had my own crisis of faith for many years. And to be welcomed into this world has made me look at faith in a new way. And that's a very powerful gift that I've been given. There has never been, I've never had, I guess, a permission to, and you don't really need a permission, but I wanted an in. I've never had a permission to, you know, read parts of the Quran, to read, listen to music in Hebrew, to understand the difference. I just learned the difference between, you know, what these words mean and what these words mean. And that is just, that's been very impactful to me, because I think that even in the opening of my ears to hear those things and the opening of my eyes to read those things has seeped under my skin somewhere. You know what I mean? Like I've allowed this into my life for the first time in a long time. And where that goes, I don't know. And I don't even know that I answered your question, but that's what my creative process has looked like. And it's also looked like frustration. And I'm not getting this. I don't understand this. And because of that polarized world that I live in, when I close my computer and I go out into the world, well, I'm not going anywhere. It's a pandemic and I have 3 kids. But if I got into the social media world, you know, and I just, this feels better in my soul than the other things that I put my energy into, the social media stuff, the battles. If I come here and I can fight this battle creatively and within myself, all of that stuff, I don't even need that in my space.
So thank you so much, Beau. That's beautiful. So some of the things we've been doing, that the play itself is not intended to tell the founding story. You know, we've had lots of these Thursday sessions where we've heard from all of the many of the, but certainly not all of the people who have contributed to the completion of the mission to co-locate and the creation of the Tri-Faith Commons. But it's intended to inspire a next generation to realize that there's been perhaps too small of a group who have bridged differences and gained trust to get to this bricks and mortar place. And so I introduced Beau and Tessa to conversations with the staff, to conversations with the clergy, and to conversations with more than 20 representatives across ages and what I would say a spectrum of spiritual orientation throughout our congregations. And they have had intimate conversations with more than 50 people, and revisited conversations with some of those people in order to reflect back some of the stories that exist between and betwixt all of us in this moment. And in this moment also, we're living in a pandemic, in systematic racial injustice, in political uncertainty, and where is the place that this play will hold us with a sense of joy and hope for what is to come, and not in that, oh no, this is bigger than we can even enter, right? And so now that this audience knows a bit of how we've spent tenderly our time thinking about these 30 minutes that's in a play, Tessa, can you share how it's impacted you in some ways, and whatever else is on your heart related to that?
Wow. What Beau was saying struck me so deeply, because last week I had an experience where it felt like in my body, it felt like the beginning of a process of healing. And you don't know when those are coming or how to expect them, and you wish they would come when you needed them. But I can't help but tie some of that energy to this experience. And when I read Beau's most recent iteration yesterday, I had to go out into the world for 1 hour. And the first person I saw in the world, she had a mask on that said faith over fear. And I just was sort of astounded by how when you put your energy somewhere, kind of what shows up, and the exchange I had with her was so beautiful, and it made me realize that what I've grappled with or had some interior contradictions, or, you know, our lifelong conversations with ourselves about over time, that I would be scared to call faith because maybe at different points that wasn't how it felt, or that's not how I wanted it to feel or label it at all. And so I think this experience, has contributed to a healing process, because these stories do go in and they live in your body, and our bodies are constantly in need of our healing and love and attention. So I'm deeply honored that I've gotten to hold space with the people in this process. And I think the creative process is so unique because sometimes I'm just a director on a movie set, and sometimes I'm just a this or just, and like in this process, it's been so organic. And the evolution of what you'll see on the 17th, from when you said June, I was like, wow. Because every little interaction, every micro interaction kind of becomes the macro. And so I think each moment that we've had the honor and privilege of living and knowing, okay, structurally, this is what we need. And so how can I bring in the right people to kind of contribute, and building up a cast. And I see Jessica is here. And I think building up a cast of people, that's one thing, the synergy, oh, I can't believe I just used that word, but the symbiotic part of a creative process is so incredible, because especially one of the things that surprised me about this experience is theater, I'm a little bit out of my depth. I'm used to film sets, and in this world that we're living in right now, film sets don't exist, or they involve a lot of COVID testing and a lot of masks and a lot of actors in masks that don't really serve the story you're telling. And so I think to kind of get into this architecture of Zoom, or archaeology, more like now, and sort of understand, how do we connect in this space? And I think one of the things Beau has been tasked with that she's handled so elegantly and brilliantly is when we're coming together in this space, when we do feel lonely and we feel disconnected, and we know there's an insurmountable sort of amount of things we want to be giving our time and energy to, but coming together in this space, and what does that mean? And so when you have producers and writers and actors and facilitators and, you know, the people with Tri-Faith all coming together to create this piece, they are all, their past, present, and future is all in every moment of that. And so what you'll be witnessing on the 17th is the intersection of all of that energy and all of the sort of deep wisdom within all of those people, and their sort of loving desire to share that. So when people come together, every single time an actor says yes, or, you know, that thing just clicks in creatively, it is the physical embodied reminder of why we do what we do. There's no other way to get that experience that I've had. It's just so satisfying to kind of be in service of story, and supporting Beau in this process has been a true gift, and getting to know her deeper on a sort of soul level and creative level, and Wendy and everyone we've met, it's just been an honor.
The people we were able to speak with after all of our meetings, just for us as artists, it was just so fulfilling to hear stories from their mouths, and to hear people, because when you're not in when I'm going to speak for myself, and when you're in a place where you're still searching for where your faith is going to land, to hear the permissions given from people, some of whom who are in the same faith, and celebrate and feel and think in many, many, many different ways. What Wendy just called it, you said a spectrum of the spirit. What'd you say, Wendy?
Spectrum of spiritual orientation.
Oh, I love it. The spectrum of spiritual, I can't say it, but I love it. Orientation. That that speaks so much to where I want to land. Where do I fit on that spectrum? And everyone was just so open and welcoming to us. I loved that.
Tell everyone a story that you heard that you won't forget, or one of the, not necessarily one of the characters that landed in the play, but a character who's going to live with you for a long time because you've got a chance to witness their story of connection and faith and relationship because of their connection to Tri-Faith.
Oh man, I mean, there were some things that stood out to me specifically. Sierra was just wonderful. And she was in our staff talks, and she was talking about, like, oh, I don't know, wasn't that Sierra? She's like, I don't know if am I going to be Christian? Is that what I'm going to do? and she's got this joyful persona, this sweet nature. And she was just talking about her faith with so much love and joy and questioning, but also certainty, that I think is so unique to some of the people that we spoke to. And then was it Connie, her grandfather made the Reuben? Is that Connie?
That was Mary.
Mary, her grandfather made the Reuben. We were all talking about food and what we would bring to our gathering. And she's like, well, I'd probably bring a Reuben because my grandfather made it. And we're like, hold the phone, Mary. Tell us that story, And then sweet Kyle talking about his evangelical past and how he became more progressive within his faith, and was able to just light up the room and sing us songs with his guitar. And that really stuck with me. So it was just this cacophony of all of these beautiful voices. And then Lubna talking to her about her experience. Just text my husband really quick. It's just a child. Talking to Lubna about her experience of being that first generation immigrant woman, Muslim in America, and her journey. That is a narrative that you think you know and you just don't know. And I didn't know that narrative. And so it was an honor to stand with so many people.
Thank you. Tessa, I'm sure it's some of the same but different. So
yeah,
which ones are you holding?
I have one of those strange memories where I remember everything. So there's so many. One story was kind of about this notion of unity as a form of protest, or just a form of kind of way of showing up in the world that says a lot about who they are and how they love just by their choice to be part of the Tri-Faith. And kind of the richness of what's passed down between women and how, and all parts of family, fathers, mothers, daughters. And one thing that I'm not gonna remember his name, but he was a youth leader, and he was talking about how it feels like the youth are changing, that every generation is kind of different, but really they have the same questions, they have the same problems. It's just that the world changes around them. And so they're in response to whatever is going on, but they still, they're still grappling with the same things that we were grappling with over the years. And I think as you get older and get into different parts of your own lived experience, that you maybe get a little detached from, you assume that the youth they're different, and then therefore they're affecting this part of the world. And instead they're in reaction to it and coming in and saying, oh wait, here's the world we dream of living in. Here's the world that we would love to populate. And so let's come together and build that and use our energy and time and voices and resources. And so I think one of the young people within that dialogue who is part of Tri-Faith said, kind of that same thing, and echoed that, yes, it's not necessarily and it's all they know, you know, this world that they're living in right now, it's what they know. And so to figure out how to build, Tri-Faith is a wonderful model and a sort of profound teacher in how to build the world that you would love to live in.
Thank you. I invite anyone to start to add some questions in the chat if you have questions about the show or Tessa or Beau in the creative process. Tell me something that you treasure or you'll carry with you into the things that you do after this project.
I'm going to carry with me a new respect for people who lead with faith and a new understanding of the complexities that go in behind the work that you all do. Because I've realized so much of my understanding of what faith is isn't from a real place. It is from a place of media. It's from a politicized place. It's not from a place of heart and home. And I'm going to, in my further exploration of what that looks like, that's what I'm going to carry with me.
Yes, and to piggyback on what Beau just said, I think the fact that I do have further exploration kind of happening all day, every day now, sort of my curiosity and what I'm drawn to consuming, reading, thinking, who I'm wanting to engage with has been so influenced by this experience. And so I think just as a being, I think it's had just such a massive influence on how I want to move forward with how I practice, because I think at the root of all of this is love, is holding space for belonging, which I think kind of starts with ourselves. And I think when we intentionally choose community and kind of know what that can build, I'm going to think about that in every facet of life. I think there's no boundary on the influence of this experience, and that each kind of person who was vulnerable and shared, like I think their knowings and their experiences and what will show up in the play as a result are such a testament to Tri-Faith and to what I think, you know, why deep listening and deep love, why it matters. I think I have there's sort of new light on that for me, and that whole faith over fear notion of, you know, kind of getting your piece in there, and sometimes you have to just ingest information and sort of absorb it and integrate it, and then kind of move through how to change how you show up in the world as a result. And so I think it's hard to put that in a nutshell because it's pretty vast and pretty profound.
They're big thoughts.
They're big thoughts.
So many big thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, little bitty time frame. But yeah, that's the big thoughts of it have been profound for me too. The things I can't wrap my head around, but are also, they make me hungry to find a further understanding within myself.
Well, I'm going to put your words back at you. You said there were challenges creatively. I don't want anyone to think this has been easy, because it hasn't. We're trying to get, one of the things Beau said to me really early is that in any of her work, she would like people who are of all different ages and all different life experiences to be able to see themselves in a narrative that she writes. And so that's complicated when we look at Tri-Faith and at people who have different faith experiences, different triggers, for lack of a better word, for what faith community has held them or harmed them. And so tell everyone else about what have been some of the creative challenges to get the words on the paper and to bring the message forward that you've hoped.
Well, I think I said this to Tess. I was like, okay, so we need to take thousands of years of infighting and misunderstandings and wars, and then put these in these few people in this space and then make them friends, which was not the brief. That's not what Wendy asked us to do at all. That's one of those big dots that I need to come around to, right? Along with that, just the vastness of what religion looks like and feels like from the outside. It looks and feels insurmountable. How could I even come to the table with 30 minutes of something that would push the needle even a little, that would make sense, that would be entertaining? Where do you even start with that? And then I wanted to represent every single person on that spectrum. Like I don't want anybody to feel left out. So I have to have someone who thinks like this and thinks like this and does this and goes here, all of that, which all of that stuff. When you said we started in June, I feel like we started like 2 weeks ago, but also a lifetime ago. So it's in that spot. And coming to the table with my own bias, my own prejudices, and having to suss those out to make sure that I'm approaching this in an open way, in a way that is equitable and honest. Those were all of my challenges. And we start rehearsals tomorrow, and I think the show will be finished tomorrow. You know, it's taken this long. We have written draft after draft and gone back to the drawing board and had conversation after conversation about it. But to go back to something that Tessa said earlier, you don't know what you don't know. And this journey is necessary. This long, challenging journey is necessary to get to the destination that we want to get to. There was no shortcuts to take.
Tessa, tell some of the creative challenges to film a play in a pandemic.
Oh, that's such a unique, I'm used to making work out in the world where I really understand what a visual language is, how to sort of realize something and take something from a page to a visual. And so this has been so unique because once we knew kind of it would live in that Zoom space, and Denise and I started talking, and Denise Chapman who's at the union, has had a lot of experience during the pandemic with different kinds of Zoom production. And so then I just started to bring in my sphere of community and connection creatively that I've cultivated over 20 years in film and television, and kind of just called on a lot of my muses and mentors and just said, hey, how are we doing this? And how do we tell a visual story in this space? And so I think there's been a lot of discovery and a lot of very long phone calls and deep kind of dives into all the intricacies and tech parts of it that I do everything in my power to try to avoid. If I'm producing or directing something, like I just hope someone else is managing that piece and they know what what kind of XLR cable belongs in that thing. And so I've had to get more into the depths of those experiences and understanding, but in honor of the story. But I think it's also just at every juncture of a creative process, kind of knowing that you can't always get the day that you want, but you're going to get the day that you need. And learning that over and over again. It's like some days your momentum is here and you're getting everyone's engaged, and then it's like, okay, we need to pause there and focus here. And when you're kind of overseeing a whole process, one thing that's unique about film production is there's usually 30 to 100 people who need something from you every day, just like in terms of, is this that, and is this that? And so just figuring out, how to calmly and creatively kind of problem solve. And so I think some of the creative challenges, and Denise and I have so many calls queued up for today, is, as you honor the process, like the anxious part of my brain is like 3 steps down the line. And like, how can I be doing this piece while doing, and Beau knows this, you're never really just doing one thing at once. That thing is moving through you that you need to do 3 hours from then, or 3 projects from then. So figuring out how to like find calm within a creative process and root yourself down and like kind of ground and say like, here's what I can control today, or here's what I can control for these next 10 minutes. And then, it always shows up. And I think you never get to the most beautiful places without discomfort. I think in life and in the moment we're all living in general, like comfort's not the goal. I think you can have joy and peace while being uncomfortable. I think they're actually deeply related, because you're getting into that, you're drilling into the deeper work. And so I think a creative process is so illuminating into your own kind of just human process. And I was thinking about it recently, like when you saw things as a child and you go back and rewatch them now and how differently they land. You've accumulated all these life experiences, and now, Annie feels a lot different than it did when I was 8. And, all of those things within a creative process that you want to give it your everything, and you want it to, get the best, you want the process to have the best of you, because that then becomes, you're building this little mini universe, and then you're sort of putting it out into the world and letting other people live there. And then, you no longer have control over how it's living. And so you really want to make sure you honor every part of its life up until the point it's out in the world.
All right. Thank you so much.
Can I add really
yes.
fast? Because I'm like, oh my God, I just want to text you. Because such a big part of that is coming to the process with no ego. There's no ego stopping us from allowing that process to kind of come in and take over. And that's what I'm just hearing from what Tessa's saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
So true.
All right. So Beau, this is a big ask of you. All of these people here, I want to show up on October 17th. Give them a synopsis. What's the thing they're supposed to tell their friends and families and colleagues that they're going to come watch this play? And what's it about? And it is like, why, what's the synopsis of the show?
First of all, what else do your friends have going on right now? They need to be at home. It's better than basketball. So the show is a coming together of people who are not like-minded, but who are searching for the things that they can connect to as humans, connect on as humans. And this play is set in today. It's during a pandemic. These people are you and I, and they're on these squares searching for connection and offering themselves up to be connected with. I don't know if that's the sexiest way to say it, but it is the way that it's all about human connection during a pandemic when we cannot be together in the same room. And how does that connection last a lifetime?
Mm. Thank you. So after Tessa, you heard why show up. What does success look like? What do you hope people are going to say after?
What does success look like for the show? I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about this filmmaker that I love, that, you know, it's not that you're witnessing truth out here, it's that you're kind of then going into your own places and understanding your truths and your inherent bias and your, you know, kind of the things that you're wrestling with daily that you can notice and name during the course of this piece of art being performed. And, you know, and like they were saying before about seeing yourself within it, and seeing yourself, it's like, and it's not necessarily through one individual character, it's just through the feelings that are coming up in the show in general, and sort of getting to, I think success is conversation among folks that have experienced the play, sort of internal interrogation, but conversation that leads to kind of new ideas and new thoughts and sort of building up what is kind of, what is this scaffolding for the next generation look like, and how do we build and hold space that is meaningful, intentional, and rooted in love, and what is that saying, and what is it doing? What are the actionable and quiet pieces of engagement that come from witnessing this piece of art? Because I think a story is, you know, everything that we've ever learned, every college lecture, every elementary school class, everything is a story. And so, yeah, I think success is kind of knowing what is next for you, your family, your community, your faith, your congregation, through kind of just witnessing this story.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing so freely of your time and talent and treasures to make this ritual of coming together while apart really meaningful for a community. I'm certain that we are blessed. I am blessed by knowing you, and we are blessed by your contributions. I've put the registration in the chat, as well as the survey to get your feedback about today. Tri-Faith's next chapter will be successful if not only you show up, but you bring a friend. So anything that this conversation inspired you to tell your sister or your neighbor or your fellow congregant or your work colleague, that this event on October 17th is for all of us who have been involved in Tri-Faith until now, but it is an invitation in for beyond. So if you know someone who belongs to Temple Israel or Countryside Community Church or AMI who has not yet participated ever in something from Tri-Faith, this is the moment for them to enter. If you know someone at work who doesn't even know what Tri-Faith is, this is the moment for them to show up and enter. And we count on each of you to help us fill the pews for...
we say the same thing in theater.
Right? Yes, yes. So please, please join us for a day of great celebration. I would be remiss if I don't also tell you that this Tuesday, oh, Amanda's on the same page with me. This Tuesday, Valerie Kaur, who wrote the book, No More Stranger, I just finished the book last night. It is breathtaking example of a personal journey to open your heart and mind, to breathe and push through the most difficult, darkest times in our world. And I promise you, if on September 29th you show up to hear her message, you will be changed as a person, I'll just leave it there. She is really a beautiful spirit. So I think these things are linked to who we all are and who we live to be. So thank you all for being here. Know that I bow to the light in each of you, and so am looking forward to this celebration together. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Wendy, we need to warm our hands.
Oh, you got it. Do it.
Yep.
Everyone,
We have
just
we
pull
have
your hands together and bring it to your heart. And then feel the presence of all of the people in this room. We are here together. Thank you, Anne, for reminding us. Thank you.
Love that.
Take care.
I love that.